Hello, and thank you for joining us here on our very special program. I am Paul Amadeus Lane, and I am delighted to have you with me. Today, we're going to get an update on the conventions of Jehovah's Witnesses. Over the past several months, we have featured them about their in person regional convention, the first time in over 3 years. But we also talked about their open house in the city of Long Beach, California, and how they have been using that convention site for decades as they celebrated their 25-year partnership with the city of Long Beach. Well, now their conventions are now over for this year here in California. So we're going to be joined by two very special guests to find out how the conventions went. Was it a success? And how did Hurricane Hilary kind of affect the conventions that were going on during that time? But before we bring them on, I'd like to share a word from our sponsor, Seed Probiotic. Gut health is so important. I remember a couple of years ago, I just didn't care about what I put in my body and couldn't sleep. I was bloated and had some other things too. Don't want to gross anybody out with that. But I tried Seed Probiotic a couple of years ago, and it really improved my gut health. It helped me out with my bloating, helped me out with my skin, and it even helped me out to start sleeping better. And so I want you to find out more about Seed Probiotic. And there's a special website. It's rollwithpaul.com/seed me. I'll say that again. It's rollwithpaul.com/seed me. You can check out about how important a gut microbiome is. You can find out more information about Seed Probiotic, and you can even see if it's right for you. So if you do, check it out and let me know what you think. There are links in the descriptions as well. All right. So without any further delay, let's get an update on how the conventions of Jehovah's Witnesses, um, was it a success? And we'll also talk about something else they have going on right now in the month of September. Let's bring on our very special guest right now. I am so delighted to have with me right now my next guest. They are with Jehovah's Witnesses. We have the regional spokesperson from Jehovah's Witnesses, a person that returned to talk to me. I didn't scare him away. We got Eugene Beltran. And then we also have a newcomer to the program. We have local spokesperson for Jehovah's Witnesses. We have Pete Chavez. Gentlemen, welcome both to the program. And Pete, I promise I will be on my best behavior, my friend.
I appreciate that.
Nice to be with you, Paul. Thank
Hey,
you.
welcome back, Gene. Always good to see you, Gene. So, in my intro, I talked about how the convention season is over, and we wanted to do kind of like a recap of how things went, because I know the public out there was wondering how did things go. So Gene, we know the regional convention just ended here in California. Gene, how did it go?
Paul, the only way to put it is it exceeded everyone's expectations. Here in California, we had 113 conventions. They concluded last Sunday in a dozen languages. And it was just beautiful to see how Jehovah's Witnesses across the state, from the Bay Area and Sacramento down to San Diego, all responded with such exuberance and excitement. You know, our convention theme this year is James 5:8, exercise patience. And as Jehovah's Witnesses, we needed exercise patience, waiting since 2019 to have conventions again. It went so well. You know, we paused and reset. We had it set up for conventions since August of 2019. And to watch the setup, whether it be at the Long Beach Arena or our venues across the state, it was just like we just picked up where we left off. Hundreds of volunteers at each convention cleaning, really thousands cleaning and setting up our sound walls and the convention site. And to see that people just happy to be back worshiping together I think we can all say that it was, again, exceeded expectations, and we really feel that Jehovah God bless the arrangements this year in California and across the U.S. branch territory.
And Gene, as someone who checked out the convention, it was all what it was hyped up to be. Just ones who were there, ones just the way they show consideration. Me being disabled, even having certain kind of parking for me. They helped out my wife and my mother who was in her 80s. So this really left an impression, not only on me but others as well. And Pete, why did the witnesses decide to come back in 2023? Why not just stay virtual? Because you can pause the program, you can have a little lunch, do this and that. Why return in person in 2023?
Paul, returning to our regional conventions was done in a strategic and well-planned manner. With COVID cases decreasing in 2022 and restrictions being lifted for gatherings and large groups, we decided to open up our activities slowly, safely, and cautiously. For example, we resumed in-person meetings starting in April 1st, 2022. And the attendance at these meetings usually is about 100 in attendance, 100 individuals. And we saw the success in these meetings and how the friends really enjoyed being there in person. And I can tell you, it really had a profound effect on me, just being there with the friends, hugging them, giving them the handshake. So it was something that I needed after being 3 years on an online platform to see our meetings and our activities. But we saw the success there. And then we also started in-person ministry house to house. And we also saw the success there. So everything went really well for these two activities. So we decided in January of 2023 to resume our circuit assemblies at the 45 assembly halls that we have here in the U.S. Now, keep in mind that a circuit assembly is a one-day program. A regional convention is a 3-day program. And a circuit assembly usually has a smaller attendance. So we're looking at about 1,500, for example, in Norco. And at a regional convention, which is a 3-day program, we'll have about 6,000 in one day. And that's what we had in Long Beach. And so we saw the success with the circuit assemblies. And so we decided in May to September of 2023 to actually hold our regional conventions with the theme, Exercise Patience. Now, as of now, we have had 708 conventions in 144 cities in 35 different languages. Now, those numbers may be impressive, but we have actually had around the world close to 6,000 conventions in over 500 languages. And I just went to jw.org just to see the last conventions that are still going on. We still have some going on in Mexico, El Salvador, and also Panama, plus other countries are still holding their last conventions. But for the U.S., we're all done holding our conventions, and we had a success.
And down the line, or through our interviews, I want to ask both of you your personal, views of the convention experience. So I just wanted to tee you both up for that, so you guys can give us some thought when we talk about that. But thinking about the public's reaction, what was the public's reaction to the conventions, not only the Long Beach arena, but also the Ontario arena? What was that like? And Jen, you want to take that?
Sure, Paul. On the day before our opening in Ontario, I was there with a large, really an army of volunteers cleaning the arena. It's a beautiful facility. We love working with the staff there. They're so cooperative. But the gentleman who oversees the arena saw the cleaning effort, including dozens of our volunteers scraping gum, cleaning the arena from top to bottom. And he and I walked around with some others, and he was just really astonished he had heard about the reputation of Jehovah's Witnesses, but to see it in action just really touched him. And so we explained to him that the reason why we do this is our volunteers come out because we really when we take over an arena for a convention, we treat it like our place of worship. And being clean is very important for Jehovah's Witnesses. I can tell you at Long Beach as well, working with the staff, we had a cleaning day at Long Beach before our opening convention on June 1st. We had thousands of volunteers, and to watch the reaction of the staff there was just touching. When it comes to public reaction, there's a couple of experiences, if I can share them with you, that just touched my heart. First one happened at Long Beach in June. There were a number of individuals who clearly were visitors. I approached one man and we talked for a little bit. He was formerly one of Jehovah's Witnesses. He wants to come back. And when we began to talk about the convention, he just broke down in tears. And he expressed from the bottom of his heart how happy he was to be back. Now, a week later, I was at a convention in Sacramento, and the same scene played out with someone, a man who was formerly one of Jehovah's Witnesses. He wants to improve the quality of his life because since he's left, he's had a mountain of problems. I think that's a microcosm of what we saw across the board. Seeing individuals come as visitors, joining our people, our congregants for the convention. It really was touching to see, especially after this long pause we took out of necessity because of the pandemic. That's just a snapshot of what I saw during convention season.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Gene, about that. Wow. You know, when you hear stories like that of ones just wanting to better their life and how they're able to do so, it really heartwarming stories. You know, so often we have different stories in my profession of nothing but doom and gloom, but it's always good to hear some positive stories out there. Thank you for sharing that. And something that I was privileged to be a part of was the 25th anniversary open house at Long Beach. A lot of our listeners and followers, they saw the report that I did there, and I had a really nice time. But how did it go behind the scenes and the ones who put it on? How did it go, Pete?
You know what, Paul? It was a success. I actually had the opportunity to be there on July 20th of this year. And we got together with the city of Long Beach, and we just celebrated together the 25 years that we've been holding conventions at the Long Beach Arena. And we had a good group of individuals that were there, and they shared some great information on the partnership that we've had with the city of Long Beach. And I think that word partnership just came up during that event, just came in time after time, and how everyone, all these local leaders have enjoyed having us there in the city of Long Beach. Now, who was there and who was able to give some words of appreciation of us being there? And we also gave words of appreciation of being there in the city of Long Beach. Well, we had David Cohen, who presided the event, and we had the Vice Mayor, Cindy Allen, share also some words of appreciation. Something that I thought was very encouraging was that she actually, for a good period of time, actually lived right across the Long Beach Arena, and she was able to see from her apartment the Jehovah's Witnesses just coming in every summer. And when she said that, she had a smile on her face because she was just so happy to see us there. But we also had some members of the Jehovah's Witnesses also there to share just some words of appreciation and also some observations. We had Alan Schuster, who oversees all activities in the U.S. and in the Caribbean for the Jehovah's Witnesses. We also had Keith Brown, who is the branch manager for conventions for the Jehovah's Witnesses here in the U.S. And then we also had Stephen Goodling, CEO of the Convention Visitors Bureau. And then we also had Robert Hendricks, who just gave an overall picture of the partnership that we have had with the city of Long Beach. All of these individuals shared some great stories on the partnership that we've had. Now, there was a quote that really stood out to me, and this actually came in from Mayor Rex Richardson. I want to just share this with you, Paul. And I'm going to quote what Mayor Rex Richardson actually mentioned. He said, and I quote, "The Long Beach is thankful to Jehovah's Witnesses for choosing us for their annual convention for more than 25 years. Each year, the convention brings more than 120,000 people to Long Beach with a local economic impact of $44 million." And end of quote. So imagine that every summer when we have our conventions there, over 120,000 people attend these conventions, and it has an economic impact of $44 million. Now, this past summer, or this current summer that we just had our convention, we actually had 12 conventions there, 6 in English and 6 in Spanish. So if you multiply that $44 million, that the economic impact that we have each summer, and you multiply that by 25 years, that equals more than $1 billion. And that's just amazing to see, the impact we have had in Long Beach. And if you think about it, if you actually ask somebody from Long Beach, they'll tell you that Long Beach is a different city today compared to 25 years ago. And a lot has to do with what we've done there in the city of Long Beach.
Wow. And that being my hometown of Long Beach, it was, to hear those numbers were really, really awesome and positive. And before I throw it to you about your observations, Gene, funny story. I was contacted by David and Robert. I think it was the night before the event, and I was already covering an event in San Diego, and I had nothing but casual clothes. Like I had shorts, I had some of my custom merch that I have for different shows that I have. So I told my wife, I said, we gotta go check it out. We gotta go. So 10 o'clock at night, we're at Target, and I'm trying to find some slacks. And me being a big guy, both of you have seen me in person. I'm a pretty big guy. So I was able to find some slacks. I was able to find a shirt, and I always have a bow tie with me, so I'm always bow tie ready. And then I was able to definitely be a part of it. And it really left an impression on my wife and I to see both of you guys there. So I just wanted to share my little personal story of getting there. So Gene, let's talk about your personal story.
Sure. That 25th year anniversary, the open house was just dear to my heart. My father was baptized in Long Beach in 1956, and I've been attending there with my parents, my family, with my late wife, Lisa, as well. But to be at that open house was like walking back in time, because we have a very large historical display, that takes you from 1940 to now, our history with Long Beach. And as our VIPs came in, the hotelers in Long Beach, the Convention Visitors Bureau, Steve Goodling and his staff, and members from the city, we would show them the display. Many of them are younger. To them was eye-opening, and we know that they appreciated it. I spent most of my time before and after the program just talking to those individuals and hearing their observations about how they feel about Jehovah's Witnesses and the relationship, and that touched me. And also we were touched that Alan Schuster came out along with our national spokesman and Keith Brown, because Alan Schuster is one of about a dozen members of the U.S. branch committee. He helps coordinate activities with conventions, and we can tell that having those individuals, our brothers there, along with Steve Goodling and the other speakers from Long Beach, it really showed how united we are in our work together at the Long Beach Arena. Something very touching too is we moved our displays to the lobby of the Long Beach Arena for each of our conventions after the open house. The first morning, July 21st, early in the morning, who was at the displays? Several Long Beach workers, just reading them like a museum piece. That was touching. But for every convention, that convention and everyone after that, it was so moving to see our congregants. Many of whom I spoke to have history that goes back to the 40s and 50s in Long Beach, living examples, others younger or current. But it really just helped to show how the convention experience of Jehovah's Witnesses at the Long Beach Arena, it's not just an annual event, but really it is for a lot of us, it's part of our historical DNA, and that we think it's a great partnership that we've loved for 25 years, and we look forward to strengthening that partnership in the days and years ahead.
Thank you so much, Gene, for sharing that. And just to note to my audience out there and listeners out there, sometimes you may hear ones when they talk about Jehovah's Witnesses, they call them brother, or because they brotherhood. So if one say brother this, brother that, it's a brotherhood that they have. So they'll mention that term with it. So I just want to give an explanation out there to our listeners out there who may not understand that. But Gene, let's talk about Ontario. Similar relationship with Ontario Toyota Arena.
We have a great relationship there. It goes back to 2015, so it's a newer one. But we found that the Long Beach Arena and our other venues just couldn't hold the growing amount of Jehovah's Witnesses in Long Beach. So, in Southern California. So beginning in 2015, we've been holding 4 or 5 conventions there. Each one's about 5,000 or 6,000 individuals. And the nice thing about the Ontario Toyota Arena is it's much closer for many of our friends, our congregants who live out in the desert areas. So it's a shorter drive from them. It's a beautiful venue. It's in the middle of summer. The air conditioning works perfectly. The staff there couldn't be more cooperative. And we enjoy holding our conventions there. We enjoy doing the top to bottom cleaning. I know one of our conventions this year, we moved in right after a monster truck rally. And we had that place spick and span. It's always clean, but we want to raise it to the highest cleaning level we can. And for a number of Jehovah's Witnesses, that's their new history now. It's going to that beautiful venue, being able to attend where parking is easy and where we have such a cooperative staff, hotels nearby. So it is our hope that we continue to build our relationship with the staff at the Ontario Toyota Arena. And really, we've had also a good working relationship with much of the press throughout the greater Inland Empire down to the Murrieta area. So we feel very grateful that we could have two large venues in Southern California that can hold thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses. And it meets our needs, even as we like to think that we're a good guest and a good client for the staff at those two facilities.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gene. And on August 16th, 17th, we heard some rumbling about a potential hurricane coming to Southern California. And I don't know about you, both of you. I was thinking, nah, it's never going to come this way. It's just a lot of hype, right? But there was more to it. And Jehovah's Witnesses took really a precautious stand when it came to that. And on August 19th, Pete, what safety measures did the witnesses take and approach the Hurricane Hilary?
Yeah, Paul, I think Saturday, August 19th will be remembered by many Jehovah's Witnesses for many reasons. But one reason would be for the love and the care that was provided to each attendee to postpone the Sunday program to the following Sunday in Miraloma. Now, I can feel in the air that, some of the friends were a little stressed, a little worried in regards to this hurricane that was coming in. But we were all happy to be there. But what happened on Saturday is that the convention committee, actually contacted New York at about 9 o'clock in the morning. They wanted to get some direction in regards to what's going to happen on Sunday when this storm is going to hit. So they received direction at 9 o'clock in the morning. At 10 o'clock in the morning, they had taken a decision to move or postpone the convention for the Sunday program and move it to the following Sunday in Miraloma. Now, keep in mind that this was a Spanish convention, and so the last Spanish convention would be held in Miraloma the following weekend. So what happened at noon is that an announcement was made after the baptism talk, and everyone who was there was invited to attend the Sunday program in Miraloma. Now, we understood that there was attendees that were coming from Ventura, from Palmdale, southern parts of California. And so for some, it's going to be difficult to be able to be there on Sunday. So what do? We announced a provision that Zoom would be available for those that couldn't make it on Sunday. So this was something historic. We have never had a hybrid regional convention like we did that Sunday. What that means is that in the past, we've had conventions that have been pre-recorded, but this time, somebody that's watching it on Zoom would be hearing and watching the same thing as somebody there in person. So that Sunday in Miraloma, we actually had a packed house, and we all enjoyed the program on that day.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Pete. Really appreciate it. And Gene, I want to get your observation on it too, but before I do, Pete made a statement about calling New York. Did you all have to call like the governor of New York, or what does that mean? What's all involved in calling New York, Gene?
Sure. While I wasn't involved in that process at all, Jehovah's Witnesses are highly organized. We have a branch office in New York that helps coordinate the activities of Jehovah's Witnesses, or that coordinates them throughout the U.S. branch territory, which is the United States, along with 25 independent lands, mostly in the Caribbean. And so as Jehovah's Witnesses, we place such a high premium on safety and life. Romans chapter 5, verse 17 makes that clear, that Jesus Christ died for us. Life is very important in safety. And so our branch office made the decision for safety in consultation with our conventions in California to be prudent and to have our conventions end on Saturday afternoon, about 4:30, our scheduled time. So that way we could in unison all act safely. I was at Ontario that weekend, and many of the delegates were from areas that were an hour or two drive or beyond. So you can imagine the relief that they had when we announced just before the lunch hours, we broke for lunch, that the program would conclude on Saturday and that everyone can leave the convention. In fact, some could even leave early if they had a long drive, so that all of our people could be safe in their homes. Because as Pete mentioned, this was a historic event. We didn't know how bad it was going to be. In fact, that weekend on Sunday, Jehovah's Witness congregations across the Southern California area almost all met on Zoom. So when the storm did hit with less potency than we thought, everyone was safe at home and not putting a burden, a weight on the emergency services. Being in auto accidents or being out where we could be a burden, we were home safe. And then too, that afternoon we had an earthquake in the Ojai area that we felt in Los Angeles and beyond. Everyone was home for that event as well. And if I can just sum it up with this, I talked to one of the coordinators of the convention that weekend in Ontario. He said when they announced to the audience that we would be stopping the program on Saturday so everyone would go home and be safe on Sunday, he said individuals from Palm Desert, the desert area, were expressing their thanks. It took a lot of weight off of them. It was a good decision. While the storm wasn't as bad as it could have been, we were ready, and we'll be ready for the next challenge in the future.
Yeah, I remember I was went to vacation in the Palm Desert area that following Monday, and we couldn't even get up there. You know, we were stopped in 29 Palms. We had to stay overnight 29 Palms, and then the following Tuesday we were able to get up and go. That area was hit really, really bad. I saw it firsthand, just the aftermath of it. Roads closed and everything. It's really, really great to see the value that Jehovah's Witnesses placed on the value of life. Really, really appreciate that. And Eugene, one of the things that we were kind of introduced to when it came to the conventions, when we were talking about virtual conventions during the pandemic, was baptisms. So, Gene, any experience about baptisms now, since everything is in person now, and that you like to share with our audience?
Sure. Paul, baptisms, they are a central part of our conventions. And what's the model for that? Jesus Christ taught us about baptisms. And so we follow the model. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we're a peace-loving Christian people following the model, the example Jesus set. If I can just share a couple of experiences. One happened in Long Beach on Saturday morning, baptism morning, before the baptism. We talked to a woman named Iman from Orange County. She had an incredible story. She had been living her life into her early 40s and was not satisfied. She felt like she was on a treadmill in life, working, having fun, not getting anywhere. So a coworker that she worked with, whom she respected, she found out he was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. She went on the website when she found that out because she had some questions. She loved what she saw on our website, jw.org, the most translated website in the world. And she requested a Bible study. She began studying 3 days later. She put in her request, which anyone can do. It was sent to the local congregation in her area. Somebody called her 2 days later. She's studying. Actually, that same day, she received the phone call. How touching to see someone living a very successful life in finance make a change. And she said the quality of her life is so much better now because of living by Bible principles. In Ontario, in July, we talked to a man named Michael from the Temecula area, 66 years old, married for many years, happy in life, but missing a vital piece of happiness. During the pandemic, he began sitting on Zoom with his Jehovah's Witness wife. He liked what he heard, began going on with a tie and a jacket. And when I talked to him in Ontario and I asked him about his experience, grown man, distinguished man, handsome gentleman, just began crying and saying he wished he had done this earlier, because living by Bible standards has not only strengthened his marriage and made him feel better personally, but he says drawing closer to God and learning about Jehovah God through the Bible has been invaluable. these are just two of many experiences that I interacted with as I attended conventions of Jehovah's Witnesses in California this summer. Just touched my heart. Thank you for letting us share them.
No, I really appreciate that. And before I ask the last question, what were both of your personal experience and how you felt about being in person? You know, we heard like little tidbits of the things that you've witnessed, but personally, you know, if you want to share that with us.
You know, Paul, I've been a Jehovah's Witness since I was small, so it was a really big, a lot of excitement in me just to be able to return to the convention after close to 4 years that we haven't had a convention due to the pandemic. And I'm going to be honest with you, I actually got teary-eyed. You know, I actually started to cry just to be able to be back, not of sadness, but of excitement. It was good to be able to see friends that I haven't seen for years. The information was just so appropriate. You know, it had to do with patience, and we needed so much patience. So overall, for me, you know, I actually attended various conventions, and every convention I went to, it was just exciting times for me. It was just nice to be able to be there, sit there and hear the information, watch the videos. And I'm really looking forward to next year's convention as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Pete, Gene?
You know, on a personal level, being at a convention with my elderly parents, with all of my siblings, for whom I have such deep affection, to be together, worshiping together was just beyond words. And I feel like so many Jehovah's Witnesses expressed, just to be able to see the smiles in person and hugs of old friends, many of whom I had not seen since the pandemic began, was just so touching. But one thing that really touched my heart was attending our Russian language convention in the Bay Area in August, where you had among the attendees hundreds and hundreds of Russian refugees fleeing religious persecution, hundreds and hundreds of Ukrainian refugees fleeing war, and watching them seamlessly get along. Zero friction. Two nations at war with one another, the people of those nations seeing each other as brother and sister. And one thing that really touched me on Friday of that convention, we were having lunch outside of our venue on some benches, and this one Ukrainian woman, and her about 30 years old, she began to cry, and she talked to one of the women in the group, and they shared with me that earlier that morning, an 8-year-old boy in her congregation in Ukraine, she's just left a handful of months ago. He was killed in a missile attack. 2 others were killed in her congregation earlier that week. And we gave her some words of comfort, and she said this. She said, it's just so terrible to see that, but she's so happy to be at this convention. She's learning about patience. And she said, I'm going to wait on Jehovah. I'm going to show patience because I know soon he's going to fix all the problems we have completely. So this convention's giving me the courage I need to be patient. She said it through tears. We got weepy-eyed as well. But to see that kind of effect of our conventions on individuals who've been through trauma and are living through trauma is so touching. It certainly touched my heart, and I look forward to conventions in the future because the convention experience of Jehovah's Witnesses is one I've enjoyed my entire life, and I don't plan on stopping.
Appreciate that too, Gene. Pete, last question. What's next for Jehovah's Witnesses here in Southern California?
Yeah, so this month of September, we actually have a campaign that is what we're calling it a Kingdom campaign. Now, this campaign is actually a special campaign because it is a global campaign. And what that means is that volunteers around the world, including Southern California, will be sharing a special edition of the Watchtower magazine available in 780 languages in print and online with the theme, what is God's kingdom? And this is in a form of a question. So this magazine will answer that question and many other questions that the reader may have in regards to God's kingdom. Now, why is this such a timely theme? Well, right now in the minds of people, not only here in Southern California, but around the world, many of them desire a better government that will solve the problems that mankind is facing, and they're looking for that leader, that government that's going to solve all the questions. So they're looking for a government that can provide food on the table for everybody in the family, They're looking for a government that can provide housing for their loved ones. They're also looking for work that will be meaningful to each individual. They're also looking for a government that can cure diseases. And so this magazine, this campaign is really going to help answer which government is the one that can solve all of these things. And we all know that it's only God's kingdom. So I encourage all of the viewers here that if you're listening to this and you want to know more about God's kingdom, I encourage you to go to jw.org, and you can go to the magnifying glass on the top right hand corner, and you can put in there, what is God's kingdom? And you will actually see that magazine. It'll actually come up there. You can download it as a PDF. You could also download the JW Library app, and you can read this information at no cost. And to download this information, you don't need to give your personal information, your email, a phone number. You just go there, download it, and you can read this information. Or if you prefer, if you see a Jehovah's Witness at one of the corners, at one of the carts, or maybe they come to your house and you want to know more about the God's kingdom, you could simply ask them for one of those magazines, and they'll be more than happy to provide you one at no cost. And going back to the online, jw.org, there's also some great videos there that explain in regards to what God's kingdom is. For example, we have a video there titled, What is God's Kingdom? It only lasts 3 minutes and 6 seconds, and it's amazing everything you can learn about God's kingdom in 3 minutes. So once again, it's free to obtain this magazine. We are doing this around the world. So make sure that if you are listening to this program, that you get your personal copy and you're able to read it. And if you want to know more about this kingdom and you want to know what you have to do to be part of it, we're also offering some free Bible studies that a person can get. They can spend 10 or 15 minutes just to be able to learn about God's kingdom. And this time around, we're actually doing this in person. We actually had a similar campaign like this in November of 2020. Now, we know that was during the pandemic. So we actually did that via letter writing, texting, and we also did phone calls. But this time around, it is much safer, and we're actually going to the individuals. We're having these conversations, helping them understand what God's kingdom is going to do very soon for all of us.
Pete, thank you so much for sharing that. As when you think about the subject of God's kingdom, there's a lot of people who have different explanations of what that kingdom is, and it'd be good to get Jehovah's Witnesses' perspective on that as well. So thank you both so much for joining me. Really enjoyed our chat, and looking forward to doing it again. And so thank you both so much, and stay healthy, stay safe.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for being generous with your time. It's a pleasure to be here. We look forward to talking to you again in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, as well.
Thank you both. Really enjoyed chatting with Eugene Beltran and Pete Chavez about an update on the conventions of Jehovah's Witnesses. They just ended, and for this year, and then also how they took proactive steps when Hurricane Hilary came and really shocked us all here in Southern California. And we can't forget about what they have going on this month too, this special campaign about God's kingdom. Have you ever thought about God's kingdom? What is your thoughts on it? We would really like to know how you feel about it as well, because maybe you're one of those listeners and viewers who prayed that prayer at Matthew chapter 6, verse 9. And so, what are your thoughts? So thank you so much. Really enjoyed chatting with you. Really enjoyed bringing this update and keeping you informed. Until next time, do me a favor. Stay healthy. Stay safe. And I love you to life. Take care, everyone.